All right. So this is like I like pigeonholing people with questions like this. All right. So, all right, considering sports psychology, mental health, or excuse me, mental performance, um, like right now, you got a young athlete in front of you.
Yeah.
You only got so much time, maybe got 10 minutes with him. Give him three things that he needs to consider, like three things that every young athlete should consider, try, or do with respect to your field.
Okay. Um, yeah. Again, when we're talking my field, let's go mental performance here, right? Okay. I think, well, even with that said, I think you've said it, a journal. I think a journal to one, there's so many different things you can do with a journal, but let me go with the journal. So, journal, you can utilize it to track out your day, to build a routine, to build a system that works for you. You can use a journal to express gratitude. And, gratitude is a really important thing that can be helpful in forming habits and routines. Like if you're grateful for the opportunity to do an at-home workout because you have two legs, which is like a pretty vivid and like gruesome thought, like not having legs, but literally people sometimes don't have functioning legs. So like if you're grateful that you can do an at-home workout because you have two functioning legs, like all of a sudden you're not complaining about the fact that the gyms are closed until July, August, whatever. So that's another thing you can do with the journal. Continuing on with the journal, a third thing that you can do with the journal is evaluate performances from day to day or from week to week. So, what went well? What do I want to see improve? How can I make those improvements? Those are all things that you can utilize a journal for to spearhead your personal development when it comes to the mental side and also your like living style. I think about continuing on with the journal, give one more thing with the journal because I do this is instead of tracking out my full routine and listing out like do this, do that, do that, do that, I have 9 things that I do every single day where if I accomplish those consistently, I'm having a great day. And number two, this wasn't planned, but it came to mind is you talked about routines. I would say going into every single day with an understanding that you have a plan and that plan is going to change. I revert back to the Last Dance documentary, and Phil Jackson said the most constant thing in this world is change. So, number two would be to go into the day with a plan, a course of action. But when change comes your way or when an obstacle comes your way, approach it with grace and flexibility rather than rigidity. And again, that's something that can be developed through practicing mindfulness and meditation too. So, three, I would go with mindfulness meditation, honestly. I think a lot of the time when we think about mindfulness meditation, we think about Buddha sitting under the lotus flower tree. I've recently invested my time into the Calm app, and I've started the 30 days how to meditation course, like how to meditate course. And through that process, there's been many, many, many different 10-minute meditation styles where it's not, hey, this meditation is going to make you feel really calm, but it's going to be challenging. It's going to make you become aware of what are you hearing, what are you seeing, what is distracting you, what bad word to use here, but what's triggering you and distracting you, and then how do you get back? I think about a meditation that I did. It's called Welcome to the Party, and I journaled about this the other day. It's you're meditating, you're there, you're in the moment. You might do something that you said, Ryan, like you're counting down from 100. And then once you recognize something, you say, well, welcome to the party. And it's a way to push it away or to just let it in, let it out, and then go back to what you're doing. It's uncomfortable sometimes. Like I thought meditation was this thing where you do it, it's comfortable, you feel calm, relaxed, peaceful. That can be it. Like that can be the case. But there is also a really big portion of meditation and mindfulness practices that we're missing if we're not focusing on like what are the ones that are difficult for us. At first I would shut it off. Like 3 minutes in, I'm like, man, this sucks. Like I'm turning this off. I don't want to meditate anymore. But it's like, wait, that's really critical, valuable information for me to grow. Like, so within meditation, it's another way to spearhead development of awareness, but also it teaches you things such as acceptance, which directly applies to the field of sport and performance. It allows you to take on ideas such as neutrality, not judging your thoughts, not giving too much value to positive, not too much to negative, or this thought, positive or not productive. It allows you to just see thoughts as they are. And so meditation is a really big resource, and you can go a whole lot of different ways. I want to pause myself and circle back to what I just said. When you think about thought process, another thing that I would say is something that I'm actively working on and that I talk to my athletes about is, rather than defining things as positive or negative, just thinking about it rather as what is productive and what is not productive. Because when you think about emotions, like sometimes people just label angry or sad as bad. And it's like, well, like if something really major happens in your life and you have a response to it emotionally, like it's not bad. That's just kind of like you're a human being. And it's okay sometimes to react that way and to experience that emotion. And then it's about accepting it, you know, grappling with that, having empathy in that moment and self-compassion to like experience that emotion, but then also be able to identify, if you are in performance, like what is the feeling, what is the thought, what does the body feel like to be productive. So I'll wrap that up there.
No, I think it was awesome. And, you know, just kind of recap to simplify it down for some of the younger kids: journal, time management with the essence of flexibility, and meditation, mindfulness. And I think that's an awesome start. If you can get a 14-year-old kid to consider those three things, his life could change. You know, it's like, again, kind of what we were talking about before. If only I would have known then what I know now. You know, when I was 15, like meditation, I probably laughed at you because I'm ignorant, you know.
I still get that, man. Like I still get that. And I think, you know, if I had to, that's why I threw out those three ideas and those tools within the journal. Yeah. You know, some people don't like to meditate and like they're really closed off to it. And I'm not going to prescribe something. Like I'm not going to give a kid a certain medicine, if you will, for something that isn't going to treat what's happening. So like an analogy there is like, again, I'm not going to prescribe what's not, you know, desired or what would help. But at the same time, like there is endless takeaways. And, you know, something for me personally is like learning to be non-reactive and non-judgmental in the moment and just be able to come from a place of like, oh, when this happens, I feel tense and I know why. And it's like, I may react internally, but then it's like slowing myself down and trying to respond appropriately. And I think, you know, outside of sport, just from like a lifestyle and personal standpoint, like it can be really refreshing for people.
Like the reactionary versus responsive.
Exactly.
And it's like for kids, I always tell them like reactionary is like dominoes. Like you knock a domino, no one's thinking, everything's just knocking into each other. And next thing you know, you've lost control of the situation. Responsiveness is, you know, can you hold that domino up a second and just wait and try to figure out exactly what's going on here? Like, you know, like calm down, hold on, read the situation, you know, and it's hard, you know.
I think what's important there too, Ryan, is like sometimes I think back to what you said, right? Like 16-year-old Ryan smashes the crap out of your helmet, right? You react. That's going to happen. Like, I'm not saying you cannot react sometimes, but it's okay, you react. How do you get back to baseline? One. And then two is, do you want to react all the time when it isn't being productive in, say, your personal life with mom, dad, sister, brother? Like, that's where, like, I think the pedal hits the road, because you don't want to be reactionary in other circumstances. And sometimes we will react, but it's, you know, an analogy that was told to me is when I drop the ball, right? I get a double play transfer and I drop the ball. I'm not going to stare at it and yell at the ball that I dropped you. I'm going to pick it up and move forward. So like I react, but then how can we build on that and make sure that we're working still to be in a place where we're responsive?
And I think one of the most beautiful moments in like our human relationships are when we do react, but then we respond to it. Like it could be a minute later, it could be a month later, you go full circle and you explain to the people you might have hurt or reacted to and be like, I was wrong. Like as a teacher, those are my favorite moments. Like I was a pretty chill teacher. You know, I tried to be cool, but I mean, I'd blow up sometimes if I felt reactionary, you know, again, just boom, you know, and then to either sit down a few minutes later or the next day in class and be like, guys, I blew my head yesterday and I apologize. Like, it was a terrible example
Yeah.
of how to respond to adversity. And I want to talk about it for a while. We'd get into a conversation. And I think
Right.
that if you want to talk about gaining trust, that's it. Like, if you can show the young people that you're trying to influence, like, hey, I screw up, but I do something about it. You know, I don't try to pretend that it's okay. I come full circle. That is the number one way I feel I built relationships with kids, is because the way I think they look at it is like, wow, he blew up on me, but I know he did it because he desperately cares about me. And he was a little too reactionary, but at least he came back and sat down with me and bought me a Rice Krispie treat or something at lunch, you know, like whatever, you know.
Right.
But that, you know, it's such a hard responsibility working with young kids and trying to keep your head, because they're fragile. Like, I've blown up a few times and I've seen them like looking at me. I'm like, oh, I just scared the living daylights out of you. And you're just a 12-year-old kid. You know what I mean? Like, so it's, you know, vulnerability, like you're saying, it's vulnerable to admit you're wrong. Like,
Of course.
especially in this day and age, it's like, I was wrong. Like, you just kind of wince and hope they don't open fire on you, you know, metaphorically, you know what I'm saying? Like, because you're vulnerable. It's like, here's my heart. I'm sorry. Like, tear it apart, you know, like, that's the ultimate sacrifice, I suppose, is to go through the world vulnerable. So,
Yes.
Well, Coach, that was fun.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it.
I was going to say, I think I've exhausted most of the questions, unless there's
Good dude.
something else. One other thing I will say, I wrote this down at one point. Again, another quote. I don't know where I heard it from, but it just popped into my head when we were talking about the awareness and the reality of the, you know, reality of the circumstances around a young person or anybody. But the quote I heard was, the mind is a liar. You know, there's this reality that we're all in. It's as objective and very true. But when we get caught up in our heads and we hear the voices and we hear the discouragement, the mind is a liar. I guess, I mean, does that seem to resonate with what you're trying to help kids understand?
Yeah. Again, I revert back to the mindfulness app, and I think about, you know, every single person has dreams and aspirations. And at the same time, sometimes people hear doubts and, you know, they fear. And that can certainly be a big obstacle in the way of performance or doing anything. And I think a good place for us to, you know, conclude is the nature of how things are right now is there's, you know, some fear, there's some doubt, there's some uncertainty. And I think it's really important, again, to realize that amidst all of this change and, you know, not knowing, realize that we're more than just our job description. Like, I'm not defining myself by being a mental health counselor and a mental skills coach. Like, there's so much more to me. There's much more to you, Ryan. There's much more to the athletes that you work with or the people who are going to be listening to this. And it's during these times where we don't know what's going to happen regarding our field of work or transitioning back to playing. It's, what else is there to me? What are the things that I'm curious about? What are the things that I've always wondered about starting that I haven't? Maybe it's, oh, I can pick up a book and learn more about this, or these are my passions and I'm going to invest more time and energy into that. Because again, if we keep focusing and banging our head on something that we don't know about, it can become really, really stressful, and it can provoke some anxiety. So with that said, I definitely think that fear, uncertainty, and self-doubt is certainly a subsection of what can happen mentally during performance or life, really.
Yeah. And like we were saying, like, you want to be productive. You want to take habits that are productive for you. So in these circumstances, like, yeah, we're a little cooped up right now, but at the same time, the opportunity arose for you and I to connect through a Zoom meeting.
Yep.
I don't know if these circumstances happen a different way if we even have this conversation. And I'm not saying this conversation after we cut it and record it or edit it is going to change the world. But personally, for me, this was one of the more constructive conversations I've been able to have in months. And I appreciate it. And I really think this is going to be valuable to the kids I'm working with. And I hope that you can take this tool and maybe show it to some of the kids you're working with, because I have no doubt in my mind that you and I are both trying to do right with our intentions. And like,
Yes, sir.
and that's the word that really for years now I've tried to center things on. Like, what is my intention here? And I've caught myself in bad intentions, and I'm glad I've had the awareness to recognize that and change it. So thanks, Coach, because this conversation gives more confidence to me that I'm doing the right thing. And again, I hope that I think everything that came out of your words today, everything that came out of your mouth is something that young people should listen to. And I think your approach is right. You're going to present it to them, and it's their choice at that point to invest and learn about some new things.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. Ultimately it's the player's career. It's their ownership and responsibility. So, hopefully this is helpful for those of you out there tuning in. But Ryan, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it. It's been helpful for me too.
Yeah. So again, all young ball players looking out there, John Gold, mental health coach or mental performance coach, sports psychologist. I'm going to be putting his contact information up in the video and in the comments. Please reach out to him. I'm guessing he's wide open to having a conversation with just about anybody who's interested. So, Coach, I appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, man. I'll catch up with you later.